Building a set list. Let's talk about it. How often do you have fun building a set list? There's a lot of moving gears, I know, when it comes to organizing songs and who's gonna sing and what parts people are gonna play and what arrangement you're gonna do, but I really believe that building a set list should be a really special moment of the week or the month, depending on how you schedule your songs, that you experience. And this should be something that you find some joy in. So if you're finding that it's difficult to build set lists, or like you have a hard time finding the motivation for it because it just feels like it's a slog and you're weak and you're bored with it, then I hope that these tips are helpful for you. They've been helpful for me. So let's get into it. Choose songs that you love. I always tell my band there's no time for boring songs. And all I mean by that is that I don't want to pick songs that are just a bummer to play. I don't want to play songs we've played 100 times over and over and over again. I want to play songs we feel excited about, that we're passionate to play, that we want to learn, that we want to show up for. And so it's important. Find some songs that you love and keep a record of them. As you're listening to Spotify or Apple Music, as you're cruising through YouTube and you hear some new songs from a worship band, or maybe you go to a different church and you find a song that you really love, I encourage you, write that stuff down somewhere and on your phone or wherever and keep track of it. And when the time is right, build some chord charts, grab the MP3s, lead your team through learning that song, because there is just no time, man, to have a boring worship set. These times we have with the church should be full of excitement. And I know for a lot of us, we enter into these moments of where we're, having some introspection and some quiet, but all of that should be intentional and to some degree exciting for us. We should want to participate in those moments. So choose songs that you love. One way to maybe think about this question, what songs do I love, is to think about, would I be excited about singing this song if I showed up to this church for the first time and was led into this song? If you feel like when you came through the church doors at your church and you heard this song that you're about to put down for your set list, would you get stoked about it? And if you do, that's a great sign. If you wouldn't, that's a bad sign. So choose songs that you think that you would love to participate in, not just lead, because a lot of times we pick songs that are safe and songs that we just think that people know without being passionate and excited about them. So I'd encourage you, think about whether or not you would love to join in on that song if a band led it at a church that you were attending. If so, it's a great indication that that could be a good song to add to your set list. So choose songs that get you stoked, get you excited, get you fired up and passionate to some degree, because nobody wants to follow a leader who is just bleh during the worship set. Pick songs you love. Pick songs that say something. I'm of the conviction that a song that says something will have deeper impact into your church than just catchy music. And I think we probably all would agree with that, but I love punchy, fun, dancey, groovy, exciting music. But if it doesn't say something, if there's not a clear message, a clear story, a revelation about the gospel, something that's going to move us into worship and maybe upward towards looking to God, is it really worth singing? It may be emotional. It may feel like it's drawing something out of us, but is it actually saying something? I really believe that God's word, as it gets into our hearts, that is what transforms us. Not just the music and not just an emotional pull, but the gospel will totally pull emotions and worship out of people. So I really believe, man, you got to pick songs that say something. One question I ask when it comes to should this song be in the set is, what part of the gospel message, the story of redemption, is this song slotted into? If the song that I'm looking at really does speak to a component of redemption, of salvation, of hope, restoration, whatever word you want to use there. If it has to do with the gospel message of love, then I want to pick that song. I don't want to just pick a song that is ethereal in nature or is just kind of vague about who we're talking to and what we're talking about. I don't want to pick just romantic songs to God. I want to pick songs that have some substance to them. A few that come to mind for me are Remember from Maverick City. Love singing that song with the church. Graves in the Gardens by Elevation has been a huge song for our church. And Christ Be Magnified has been an incredible song of worship for our church. So pick a song that says something, and I guarantee you that God will use that substance of the gospel to really impact the life of your church through your worship gatherings. Find songs that other vocalists can lead. I found that for me personally, some of my most deeply transformative moments in worship have come during a moment when God is speaking to my heart as another volunteer is leading a song. There's just something so special about somebody who works a 9-to-5 job all week and they memorize these songs. They give up a vacation day, a day of the week when they're not working to lead the church and worship. There's just something I feel like that God does through that kind of person that just speaks volumes to me. And so I try to make a real effort to give a few songs to volunteer vocalists and worship leaders on my team every weekend. I try to delegate maybe about 30 to 50% of the songs to other people than just me on the worship team. And that means, for me, we lead about 4 songs a weekend. So it's like 1 to 2 songs. I'm not great at math. I don't even know if that equation really matches up to 30 to 50%, but I try to give about a song or two to other vocalists because I just know that God uses people who aren't a part of the church staff or even the people who are just leading the ministry. God does use those people, but man, a volunteer who's given their time to serve the church, I just think that God really uses that kind of person. So choose some songs that other vocalists can use and that they can lead. And when choosing songs for other vocalists to lead, I found that other vocalists are most, prepared to lead a song successfully when they're passionate about a song. I've found out after the fact many times that I've assigned a song to somebody and they didn't really like that song. And that they could have probably led a different song much better because they were more connected to that song. And you don't want somebody's just attachment to a song to dictate whether or not that song is being led to the church. But I think it's really important. Talk to your team and see what songs are moving them. If you can find some kind of harmony between a song that you want to be in the set and a song that somebody is really passionate about, and you can find that middle ground, you're going to find yourself in a really great situation on a Sunday morning or at your worship gathering because that person is going to be able to lead that song with confidence and boldness and with some backbone, which is just so helpful for the church as they're following someone into the presence of God. So choose some songs that your team loves, and I believe you'll see some great results on a Sunday. Throw in an oldie or a hymn. If you're looking to win over the hearts of the people who are maybe 50 years or plus in your church, the seasoned saints in your congregation, then kick it back to 1999 or maybe even a little bit earlier. Tell the older folks in your church that you got their back, that you love them by singing an oldie or an hymn. That just blesses people so much, just to pull a song back from someone's childhood or their kind of transformative years when they were younger. I found that this is really a great moment for the church on Sundays when I pull out an old song that people just know and love and can close their eyes to and can raise their hands to without looking at a screen for the lyrics. They know the melody, they know their parts, they just feel really great about the song. It's so great to bless your people with an oldie or an hymn from time to time. So think about how you might be able to incorporate one of those songs into your set. And if you're a younger worship leader and you're not familiar with songs that are maybe that were sung in your church 10 plus years down the line. Or maybe you're a newer worship leader, a newer Christian, and the worship music at your church is all you really know. You don't know things from the past that much. I encourage you to do some research. Talk to some older folks in your church. Talk to your pastors, other people who are leaders in your congregation. I'm sure they would have some great insight into some of those songs. Or Google. A lot of times I'll just Google worship songs 2000. And there are some bangers from the late 90s, early 2000s that people just love and know and cherish. So think about using those songs from time to time in your worship set. Obviously, if you're playing a full worship set with all oldies or all hymns, that's going to really just kind of change the atmosphere of potentially your worship environment. So, without totally changing the culture of your gathering, incorporate these songs to bless your church family, or maybe just add a chorus or a verse from an old hymn or an old song. Could be a real big blessing for your church and maybe really fun for your worship team as well. Introduce a new song. New songs are ultimately what's going to keep your set lists fresh from weekend to weekend. So if you feel like you've been playing the same songs over and over and over again, then maybe it's time to introduce a newer song, something that's been ministering to you and that you feel like the church would really respond to. This could be a great way to spice up your worship gathering and to introduce something new and fresh into your worship environment. But as you consider adding a new song, just take into account how much work it really takes to introduce a new song. A lot of times you gotta buy the MP3s for that song, you gotta buy or make chord charts, you have to prep your team depending on what your team looks like with that new song so they can learn it for the weekend. You gotta upload everything to maybe your email or to Planning Center depending on what system you use. You got to practice it and memorize it yourself. There's a lot of different things that have to go into introducing a new song. So just one word of wisdom, hopefully for you as you're thinking about introducing a new song. If it's Thursday and you're planning for that Sunday, probably don't introduce a new song. If you're prepping, 2 weeks in advance or a month in advance, that's a great time to consider introducing a new song because you have time to buy everything you need to buy, make everything you gotta make, distribute all the information to your team, get some reps in yourself with practice and memorizing the songs. It just prepares you much more for that day when you actually do introduce the song to your church, because you don't want to go into a Sunday not feeling fully confident about that new song. You want to feel like you own it, like you know it, you can break it apart, you know it inside and out, because that's really what's going to help you lead that song confidently and allow other people to follow you as that new song is introduced. But I think it's worth considering introducing a new song. I try to introduce a new song at least once a month. So I'm trying to do a lot of prep on the back end, trying to think about a song to introduce maybe 6 to 7 weeks in advance so I can make all that stuff for the song and prep my team with the necessary resources. But it's a bear a lot of times, like fully prepare a new song for your team. So just think about what the cost is for it. And if you can do it, go for it. If you feel like you need to run it by your pastor or get some clearance on it, by all means do those things. I try to do that sometimes if I feel like I just need that extra eye on a song. But if you're just released to introduce new songs by your pastor, your worship team, I encourage you, go for it. Have some fun and introduce a new song when appropriate. I hope these tips have been helpful for you. These are things that I'm constantly thinking about as I'm building worship sets. And if you're thinking about getting a leg up on your worship planning, if you want to go from week to week planning to maybe a month of planning at one time, then please check out my video about batch set list prep and band prep. because there I'm going to talk about all the different things that I consider as I'm preparing songs for the month ahead. And hopefully it's helpful for you if that's your style. If you like to prep every week, then by all means, I hope these different principles and kind of practices I've laid out are helpful for you and that they assist you as you're leading your worship team to lead incredible, fun, doctrinally sound, substantive worship sets. So God bless you. Have a great Sunday and see you in the next video. God bless.